Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News and welcome to the post-match live analysis. My name is Mo, and today, as always, we'll be analyzing Barcelona's match. This time, a match that we played against Girona and won 2-1 in the aggregate time, taking home three very important points as Real Madrid are set to play, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, against Getafe. Now, what a game, because it was an absolute roller coaster. First 15 minutes of the first half, Barcelona played really well. Well, maybe not really well, but they played well during the first 15 minutes of the first half. Then the other 30 minutes of the first half were absolutely disastrous. Second half comes, we have some substitutions. Again, the first 10, 15 minutes of Barcelona, solid. Then once again, they fall asleep. And again, Girona start creating chances and absolute disastrous. And then towards the end, Barcelona, once again, they step it up. They start playing and comes the Barcelona's winning goal. So an absolute roller coaster of up and down, up and down. Girona creating a lot of chances that could have been goals. Barcelona creating some chances that could have been goals. Ronald Araujo coming in as an attacker, scoring the winning goal. Pedri scoring an exquisite goal during the first half, kind of like a Messi-esque kind of goal where he crosses the box horizontally and then makes a pass to the net to the far post, the opposing post, which is a very difficult thing to do because you're running parallel to the goal, and to be able to twist your body to make that diagonal shot, very, very difficult. Beautiful goal by Pedri. Beautiful equalizer by Girona's Witsel, right, with that bicycle kick. And then again, Araujo with that crazy goal in the stoppage time, 93rd minute, coming in as a striker. You know, Hansi Flick taking a big gamble with this move, but the gamble paying off as Barcelona took home three very important points and took home a victory. I'm very, very happy with the victory. I'm very happy with the 3 points. But this was not a good match by Barcelona. This is not a match that we should be celebrating the performance. Now, before we get into that, let's, of course, as always, start with the lineup. I like to always start with the lineup, then talk about general sensation of the team, and then sometimes I like to mention individual players. But let's look at the lineup. This is the lineup that Hansi Flick chose for today. Wojciech Szczesny, of course, in goal in the place of the injured Juan Garcia, Jules Koundé, and Alejandro Balde as our fullbacks. No surprises there. And then Pau Cubarsí and Eddie Garcia as our two center backs. As I said during yesterday's podcast when I was predicting the lineup, I think this has become Flick's favorite center back pairing. I think that's what it looks like. So no surprise there, at least for me. Now, in a double pivot, we saw Pedri and Marc Casado with Frankie de Jong in the attacking midfield position. This to me was surprising because when have you ever seen Frankie de Jong play in the attacking midfield position? I think a more logical lineup would have been Frankie next to Casado with Pedri up front. But Flick going with this one, I don't really think it worked. We saw a Frankie and Marc Casado not doing much during the first half, and it was pretty much all Pedri. Pedri was carrying the midfield by himself. He was making all the runs. He was trying to organize the attack, tracking back to defend. I don't know if this worked. I think a more logical lineup would have been Casado next to Frankie with Pedri in the attacking midfield. We saw Lamine Yamal on the right, Marcus Rashford on the left, and then Tony Fernandes getting his first start in La Liga in the center forward position. Also, I don't think this was a good idea. Remember, Tony Fernandes, he's never started for Barcelona in La Liga. Young kid, still lacks experience, still needs to get used to first division football and the intensity that comes with it. And you put him in the center forward position, that's just not a good place to be putting a young kid who still needs to adapt to first division football. Why? Because you're putting all the pressure on him, right? You're the center forward. You're the guy who all the team are using as, what's called, I'm blanking on the word, whatever. You're the guy who the team are expected to score goals. And as a kid who's never played in first division, that's not a good position to be in. Unless, of course, you're already up 3-4-0 and you're coming in the last 10 minutes. Sure, put him in that center forward position. But, of course, can't really blame Flick much because, well, there weren't many options, right? Ferran Torres is injured. Lewandowski is injured. We don't really have center forwards. Maybe we could have put Rashford there and have Rooney Bardaghji play in the place of Rashford on the wing. Maybe that could have been a possibility, but I don't think this was a good choice. And of course, Flick did notice because in the halftime, he did sub out Tony Fernandez. And then we saw, Rooney Bardarji come in. Now, overall sensation of the team. Not a good match by Barcelona. Not a good match by Barcelona. We saw a lot of the same mistakes against Sevilla. However, I will say this. It was a little bit of an improvement. It wasn't as bad as against Sevilla, but it was still bad. It was still bad. And I say it was a little bit better because today I saw the team a little bit more unified. They played more as a unit rather than against Sevilla where we had 11 individual players, each one doing their own thing, each one fighting their own battle. Today we saw the team a little bit more cohesive. So that I think was an improvement than against Sevilla. Also, the first 15 minutes, I think Barcelona did a good job in trying to press whenever they lost the ball. They would press to try to get the ball back. And as a result, we saw Girona being cornered in their own half. They didn't cross the half line until the 16th or 17th minute. But then, of course, Barcelona lowered intensity. They stopped pressing. And then we were back in the same problem that we were having at Sevilla, which is the players were not pressing. So every time they lost the ball, boom, there was Girona building from the back. There was Girona creating chances. And, of course, there was Girona scoring the goal. So we see that when this team presses, we can easily corner whichever team we're playing against in their own third. We did that against PSG during the first half. We did that today during the first 15 minutes. But the moment these players stop pressing when they lose the ball, that's a big problem. And that's when we get exposed because, of course, we play with the high line. And people will say, it's the high line's problem. Oh, it's the defense. Because, of course, that's the easy thing to blame, right? It's easy to blame the defenders when you're getting scored on. It's easy to blame the high line because it's risky. But don't make a mistake here. This is not the high line. This is not the defense. In fact, today, our center backs, I thought, did a great job. The problem is, and it starts at the attack, that the players don't press. Lamine and Koundé were absolutely abysmal today when it came to press. And as a result, most of the attacks came from their flank because they were not doing anything. In fact, Girona's goal was Lamine's fault because that corner kick, Eric Garcia clears it out of the box. Lamine Yamal is just sitting there waiting for the ball to come to him instead of him going to the ball. And as a result, Girona attacker goes around him, beats him to it, heads the ball back in. Witsel, bicycle goal. Beautiful goal by Girona. So again, we still have a problem with the press, and it starts at the attack. It's not the high line. It's not the defenders. It's our attack that fails to press when they lose the ball. Same thing with Rashford. Same thing today with Tony Fernandez, but we can't really blame Tony. Again, his first match, I wasn't really expecting much from him. So as soon as these players stop pressing, well, there's a lot of problems, right? Because we play so advanced. All of our players on the other half, you lose the ball, nobody wants to recover it. Well, it's over. You're exposed. All the other team has to do is make a pass to the back of the defenders or to the empty space, and then done. And that's exactly how Girona were able to get 3-4 very, very clear shots. Thankfully, they were not clinical. Thankfully, they missed them. Otherwise, we could be talking about another thrashing at the hands of Girona. Also, when Barcelona had the ball, another problem. We saw that a lot during the first half. The same way the players don't have the intensity in pressing when they lose the ball, a lot of them don't have the intensity when Barcelona have the ball. A lot of times we saw players static, just standing in their place. So the guy who had the ball, looking around, nobody's getting open, nobody's making runs. What do? Well, I can't do anything. I can't just keep the ball. I'm going to get the ball taken away from me. And if I can't make a good pass because nobody's getting open, then they resort to the safe pass to the side, to the right, safe pass to the left, maybe safe pass to the back. So again, we're seeing the same problem where these players' attitude is what's getting in the way. Because they don't want to press when they lose the ball, but they also don't want to run when they have the ball, so nobody gets open, nobody runs their routes, and as a result, we have bad ball circulation that doesn't really create much chances. And we saw how that changed in the second half when Fermin Lopez came in. All of a sudden, Fermin Lopez injected some energy into the attack, and that's when we started creating chances, right? There was several, Rooney crossed to Rashford that he misses. Fermin pass to Rashford that gets saved by the goalkeeper. This is what we need, and I think we're really, really lacking are players who play with intensity, like Gabi, who's unfortunately going to be out for a very long time, Fermin, who thank God he came back today, and Rafinha, who's still injured, but hopefully will be back against Olympiacos. I think that really is weighing on us, because without those guys, playing with intensity and motivating the people around them to play with intensity, it's going to continue to be a problem, because this team does not play with intensity when they don't have the ball, so they don't press, and they don't play with intensity when they do have the ball, so nobody gets open. And that, of course, is a big, big problem, and that's the same problem that we saw against Sevilla, same problem that we saw against PSG during the second half. Again, today was a step forward. The team at least was playing as a unit, but overall, it's still a very bad performance. So don't let the last-minute goal and the euphoria of that last-minute goal and the euphoria of winning this match in stoppage time make you forget the fact that this team are not playing as good as they can be played. And it's all because the attitude of these players. This is not a tactical problem. This is not a skill problem. This is the same exact team as last season. We saw what this team is capable of. We saw how they could demolish big teams in Europe. We saw how they could be an absolute steamroller, but only if they play with intensity. If they don't, it's a big, big problem, and today we saw it. Jules Koundé, now that we're going to talk about individual players. Jules Koundé needs to be benched until he proves once again that he deserves that right back spot. Because once again today, Jules Koundé was shit. He was shit. He was not pressing when Barcelona didn't have the ball. When he would track back, he would be jogging like he's too good to run. Like, oh, it's just Girona. Who cares? I don't even have to try. These guys are a bunch of bums. I'm too good. I'm Jules Koundé. I'm the best right back in the world. He was getting the ball taken away from him like taking candy from a little kid. Jules Koundé needs to be benched until he proves that he earned, that he deserves to play on the field, that he deserves to start, that he deserves to wear that Barcelona jersey, because right now he's not playing like that. And I don't mind seeing Eric Garcia in his place as a right back, and then Pau Cubarsí and Andreas Christensen as our two center backs, because Koundé cannot play another single minute if he doesn't step it up. Rashford, I like what I saw with Rashford, but the problem with Rashford is he gives you flashes. Bam, bam. When he gives you moments. Those moments, he's great. He's lethal. He's fast. He's strong. He has an amazing shot. He creates things. When he has the ball and you know something's about to happen, but I need to see a little bit more. It cannot be just a few flashes here and there. He needs to do a little bit more, but maybe he's just still finding his stride. I hope he finds it soon, because when Rashford gets his moment, my God, you're like, all right, this guy can do things. But it just comes in flashes. We need a little bit more minutes from Rashford, or more, instead of flashes, more consistent, good performance throughout the match. Because if we do, Rashford can do create a lot of damage. Who else I want to talk about? Casado, maybe not a brilliant match, but you can definitely see the difference when Casado's on the field. He gives you that extra intensity in the midfield that otherwise doesn't really exist when he's not on there. Besides that, I don't really have much to say. Again, very happy with the victory, happy with the 3 points. Crazy match, roller coaster. Crazy to see Araujo play it as a center forward and then end up scoring that winning goal in stoppage time. Hansi Flick got a red card. We still don't know why. We're going to have to see the report and see the interview of what Hansi Flick says. Not surprised, of course. It's Gil Manzano, the king of morons, the king of incompetence, the king of mediocrity. So not surprised there. Again, very happy with the win. Not too happy with the performance. It is a little bit of improvement over Sevilla. So hopefully the team is moving in the right direction. But a lot of these players are going to have to step it up. A lot of these players are going to have to step it up, because you cannot go around playing half-ass, half-heartedly, thinking that, well, I'm too good. I'm wearing a Barcelona jersey, so teams are just going to hand me the victory. One more thing I want to say, I almost forgot, the wings. Today, it was so frustrating, and I said it a million times during the watch-along. This team was not using the wings. It was so crazy. Midfield would attack through the middle. When Lamine would get the ball, he would cut through the middle. When Rashford would get the ball, he would cut through the middle. When Balde would get the ball, he would cut towards the middle. Koundé wasn't even participating in attack, but everybody was trying to go through the middle. Everybody was trying to go through the middle, and all they were doing was creating a bottleneck. because all Barcelona players are in the middle, all Girona players are in the middle. There's nowhere to go. Why weren't we using our wings? I don't understand. Why wasn't Lamine making deep runs to the back line? Or at least Koundé have make those runs to the back line like they usually do, and then pass back and forth the ball with Lamine? Why wasn't Balde being used? I think they passed him the ball maybe twice in the entire first half. We need to use those wings. We need players that can actually make the run to the back line and then cross it. Fermin did it, I think, once or twice, and we came very close to scoring 2 goals in those 2 plays. Rooney Bardakji did it once. We came very close to scoring a goal. When we use those wings like you're supposed to use them, we create danger. But everybody's trying to go through the middle. Why? I don't understand. I mean, is there a new rule in football where if you score from the middle, it counts as 2 goals? Where if you score from where the attack counts from the wing, it only counts as 1 goal? I don't know, but that needs to improve too. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Let's do some comments, and then we will end this. Let's see what everybody's saying. Comment section has built up. I love it. I love it. Golf Peru says, I think Araujo started as a striker in his youth. He has always loved driving forward. Shocking that Hansi let him go up there in this situation. Apparently, someone was mentioning in the chat section, I can't verify that, but someone was saying that they were watching the training and they could see that that Flick was using Araujo as a striker during training. Of course, we have seen that in the past. Piqué used to be used sometimes as a striker. And, you know, today, Hansi Flick taking a huge risk, and it paid off. It paid off. Let's see. What else? David says, Koundé and Frankie were terrible. With Frankie, I don't want to be too harsh on him because I don't think he did it great, but I think it was because he was getting played out of position. Frankie has never played an attacking midfielder in Barcelona. When have you ever seen him in that position? Never. So I think it was a bad bet to have Frankie play in that attacking mid. I think it would have made much more sense for Frankie to play next to Casado in his natural position and then have Pedri play in front. So I don't want to be too harsh on Frankie today because he was playing out of position. Let's see. Where else? What else? Easy Mind says we blew standard. We blew. Can't even read. Way below standard lately. Shaking my head. Flick needs to innovate. Again, it's not a Flick problem. It's a player's problem because these players are just not executing what they're supposed to be doing. If they were to press when they lose the ball, we saw what happened. The first 15 minutes, Girona could not even cross the midfield. They were completely boxed in because Barcelona had the ball, and whenever they would lose it, they would press and recover it right away. So Girona was just sitting there. They couldn't do anything. They didn't have the ball. So if you do what you're supposed to do, it works. It's not about innovating. It's about applying what you're supposed to be doing. It's about doing what you're supposed to be doing. Same thing when Barcelona had the ball. Nobody's making runs. Nobody's getting open. So, of course, there's nowhere to pass the ball. So the guy who has the ball has to make a safe pass. Alexis says, Frankie de Jong played in the 10 for 1 match last season, and he scored. He might have assisted too. I mean, today did it work? I don't know if about last match, last season. I mean, we're not talking about last season. We're talking about this season and today's match. And today, it just did not work. Golf Peru says, Gazaniga rated 7.2 by SofaScore. He had a miraculous match for me. Let me see. What are the ratings of these players? By the way, they gave Koundé a 6.8. That is incredibly generous. I would have given him a 5.5, if anything. Herbert says, defense is so bad, bro. No, it's not. It had absolutely nothing to do with the defense today. If you thought it was the defense, I think you were watching a different match. Today, Kouarsi and Eric Garcia were actually phenomenal, the two of them. They were really good. It all starts with the attack who don't press. But, of course, the defense is the easy thing to do, right? It's the easy scapegoat. Oh, we got scored out. It's the defense. I mean, you can have Lewandowski turn around, run back to Chesney's goal, score the goal. It's the defense. And it's like, it's not always the defense. Okay. Let's see. Earl Staples says, DC, it doesn't change the fact that we consistently gifting goals and Tech is mediocre at best. And Samuel says, Rooney's confidence is growing. Yeah, Rooney needs more minutes, for sure, for sure. I like what I saw today from him. Sometimes he hesitates in dribbling. I've noticed that. Like, he has the ball, and he's like, he's doing this, and this, and this, and this. And it's like, dude, just make a decision and stick to it. You either go right or you go left. But he's like, hesitates and hesitates. But, again, he hasn't had much minutes. I'm sure he's only going to get better and better. But I love the cross from Rooney. Very Laminesque with the outside of his boot to Rashford that Rashford could not take advantage of. But yes, I'm liking what I see from Rooney. Street Fighter says, shouldn't we play team like Girona and Sevilla have so many 1v1 against the goalkeeper? Yeah, and they both came in the same way. Now, our midfield was pretty much just Pedri. Pedri was constantly driving the ball. And then, they would double and triple mark him, took the ball from him, and then boom, long pass to the back of Barcelona's defenders. And that left Girona players 1v1. Thankfully, one hit the post, the other one went wide. But we can't have that. This is why players need to get open, because this is what happens. Pedri has the ball. He's driving the ball. He's looking for anyone to get open. Nobody's getting open, so he keeps the ball, eventually loses it. And, of course, we're exposed. Because all they have to do is Girona make a pass to the back of Barcelona's defenders. If this happens against Real Madrid like that, we're cooked. Because Mbappe is not going to miss that. They had like three very clear shots. Mbappe is going to score 2 out of those 3. So we can't have that. Players need to get open. Players need to make runs. Otherwise, whoever has the ball is either going to risk getting the ball taken from him, leaving us exposed, or he's going to have to make that boring sideways pass that goes nowhere. Mathematics says, I think the team is just tired because they have to play high intensity every 3 to 4 days. That's not an excuse. Everybody has to play every 3 to 4 days. So that's not an excuse. We either have to improve nutrition, improve hydration or rest, or all of the above. That's not an excuse because everybody else is playing the same way. Gafa Peru said, we have lots of crosses into the box, but we didn't have players making runs to the far post. I don't even think we had that many crosses. Let's see. What else? Cedar says, it's a flick problem when the players are too exhausted from last season. What? They were off for a whole month. Street Fighter says, Kunde is now the new Araujo. It could be. And Zud Joke says, we need a quality striker next season, a tall, strong striker that can bully the defense and score goals when we need them. I am jealous of Atletico as they have a perfect blend of strikers. Yeah, Atletico do have a good, between Sorloth and Julian Alvarez. And today, that was Araujo pretty much during the last 10 minutes. A tall, strong center forward that can bully defenders. But yeah, let's see. Zimo says Schlotterbeck had an unbelievable match at Bayern. If Barca don't sign him, they will miss out. All right, good to know. Let's see. Golf Peru says, I was frustrated at 70 minutes when they were passing side to side. Nobody was making any runs. Notice that Lamine never runs behind. Yeah, man, Lamine's gonna have to step up his pressing. I get it. I understand that, a lot of times they want him to not press because it's better if he conserves his energy for the attack since that's what he's really good. But he's going to have to help because today, our right flank was just completely annihilated because Kunde and Lamine were so lazy. But, yeah, he's going to have to step it up. Herbert says, how can you say our defense is good? Oh, my God, it's not. Okay. Elaborate. What did you see today that you thought that it was the defense problem? Was it that we scored on and you decided, well, it's the defense supposed to stop scoring, so since we got scored on? Because that Girona's goal was straight up Lamine's fault. That 2-3 1v1s, that was Pedri getting the ball taken away from him and then a long pass to the empty space. So, please elaborate on what did you see during the match that made you think Cubarsí and Eric were not doing their job. Because, by the way, after Pedri, the highest rated player was Cubarsí. Golf Peru says, no, I mean that Lamine always takes static passes and dribbles from a standstill. He should run behind the defense more often. Well, that's just his profile. That's just his style. He's not really a player that really makes those runs. He's more the guy who drives the ball, right? He's the guy who runs with the ball, dribbles past defenders, and wait for his teammates to get open. So that's not really his profile. Now, what Lamine should have done more today is make those runs to the back line. He just kept cutting to the middle, cutting to the middle, cutting to the middle. And it's like, yo, everybody and their mother is in the middle. Stop going to the middle. You're not a ghost. You can't just run through people. And that was that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Let's see. Alexi says, why is it every time Cubarsí is about to score, something goes wrong? Last season, Rafinha tapped it in last second and kind of stole it. Today, it gets overturned. Yeah, you know what? I don't know that Eddie Garcia, I've seen it a bunch of times now. I don't know how much of a foul it was. I think it should have been reviewed more, and we should have seen more angles, because if Eddie Garcia jumps and puts his weight on, yeah, that's a foul. It should have been ruled out. But if it's the Girona defender who just bends forward, then that's not a foul, because if two of you jump and the other guy bends forward, of course you're going to end up on top of him because he bent forward. So I'm not too sure about that one. But anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, happy with the victory, happy with the 3 points, happy with that crazy ending, with Araujo acting as our striker and scoring a goal, but not a good performance by Barcelona. We still have a lot of work to do, and I hope we get this work done by the time El Clásico rolls around, because we cannot play like this again, especially not against Real Madrid. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Visca Barça.